you in the chat as we get started, who are your customers or members, and what does your community aim to do for them? What does your, just again, what does your community customer members want, and who are they? And what is your community aim for them? If you can just pop that in, it'll give me a little sense of who you guys are, who's in the room. If you didn't get a chance to read the description here, I'll be talking through community building for those who are interested in scaling intimacy within a community without overburdening your time. We'll be walking through tactical steps I've tested myself for communities on how to create frameworks for content and programming that benefit the members, and so that they continue to return, to engage, and we'll also discuss how to get internal these things, the things that matter. Okay, so let's see. Art, culture organizations, Zendesk, awesome. Reaching customers, director of community. Oh my gosh, my community is a group of tech folks new to mainframe, and community aims focus on us, relationships at home. Okay, great. So lots of types of communities here, but I hope that a lot of the things that we'll talk about are going to be relevant to yours. And I'm going to walk through what modern fertility does, just so you have some context. So, oops, guys, the slides are doing crazy. So, modern fertility is a health direct-to-consumer brand, and we're committed to providing women with information about their fertility and health earlier in life. And we have a modern fertility hormone test that helps people with ovaries understand more about their bodies from the comfort of their own homes. You can take it in your PJs, and it's not just about a product, right? Where does community fit into all of this? Once you take the test, we think process as a full experience to help answer the question, what does this mean for me, right? Like, you don't just want to get results, you want to understand what it means for you, your test, and I'm sorry, your health. And so you'll get a dashboard with your results, obviously, and also help to translate results into in English. We also have webinars that help explain your results with a fertility nurse. We have nurse consults one-on-one that are included in the price test. And then we also have a community where we have all kinds of support, whether it's peer-to-peer support. We have fertility and experts like our OB/GYN, fertility nurse, as well as mental health clinicians. And a little bit about me. Pomeroy. I lead community and social at Modern Fertility, and I technically sit on the Modern Fertility marketing team. I was curious about where community leaders sit in the org, and I sit on the marketing team, but I really work closely with customer experience as well as the product team, a couple other orgs within our company. And there's a ton of types of communities, and we're going to be talking about what your community can do here. Assuming that success for all of us looks like a thriving, engaged, meaningful, connections made community. And the important here is we want to foster more meaning and scaled intimacy, which is why I call it talk scaling intimacies in a brand community. So what is scaled intimacy? The word definition I like to use here is the impact you can have for one person. So whether that's a vulnerable conversation or a meaningful connection or somebody feeling really truly understood in your community, and talking about scaling them, making them more available to more people, not just you reaching out to them. And by definition, community is a place where people have something in common together, right? We know this, we've gone through this at CMX. And highly evolved communities has members who have deep connections with one another. And many of us are one for the moderation teams, which makes it really hard for us to scale our time, our energy. I'd love for you to just pop into the chat. Hopefully I can see it. Let me know in the comments if you're a team of one or a team of two. Let me know in the comments if you feel like you're strapped for time. Let me know in the comments if you're feeling under-resourced and you can really use some help. I've been there, I totally get it. Team of 3, team of 4, yes, yes, yes. Yeah, so this talk is for you, and I wrote this for you because I totally, absolutely get it. And we want to scale our time, we want to scale intimacy and create connections in a way that we don't lose those relationships, right? So let's workshop it. If you don't have a pen and paper or your Evernote doc open, I would love for you to write down 3 the most common questions or hopes or challenges that people come into the community with. So what are the most common things that people will land in the wondering or hoping or thinking? So just take a second to write that down. Slow down and think, what made my community member join? What are they struggling with right now? What could they really get help on? Write just those things down, even if it's just notes. And if you have some, just drop those in the chat, because I think a lot of us might find some inspiration about what we're feeling here. And if you're struggling here or you're new to your community or this demographic, I really recommend spending time. You're going to hear this over and over, spending time with your people, spending time getting on the phone with people. Okay. So here's a little bit of creative thinking and resourcefulness as a community manager. Our members are part of the solution. How can we engage regular members who aren't mods to support you in specific ones and help meet the needs of your members? I'm going to give you a couple like workshop-y things, and taking lots of notes here for myself. If you're like me, you're already got a full of docs and notes and things to take action on. For each and every single one of them that are actually important to you, highlight it, set deadlines to make it happen. Because I think whenever I take home a book of notes from a conference, they just go away and I forget about them. I'm actually putting them on a calendar to make sure that I take action on the things. So, okay. Let's keep it moving, shall we? Sorry, having some slide issues here. Okay, creating instant connections. So like we were talking about, when somebody joins the community, the moment they land is a super vulnerable moment. Either way, they could say, you know what, this is not what I need, or this is exactly what I need, and they keep engaging. And we want that second option, right? They're getting the lay of the land, quite know what's going on. They don't know what next to take, and what you do here is going to make a difference. So I recommend creating these instantaneous connections here. Yikes. Okay. Curating that first experience inside your community will ultimately determine how long they stay engaged. And creating that intentional first touch point serves as a tiny win and possibly solves the first issue they land in the community with. So an example for what we do, we have a couple different things that we do as soon as they land inside of our intros channel. So our community mods, some of our CX team members will pop in and we'll play tour guide. So our community is inside Slack. If you've ever been inside of a Slack channel, if you're inside of the CMX Slack, there's a lot going on. And if you're new, you don't know where exactly to get started. And so our intros is a perfect place for us to play tour guide. As people, we look out for keywords, things that they're mentioning, and connect them to the right place or the right point of contact or right channel where they could go as the next step. We also do matchmaking. So if somebody mentions a particular topic and we know that somebody 2 comments ago said the same thing, we can connect them and make that insta bond, and hopefully they'll get to DM with each other and create that point. We also, like I said, make some personalized channel recommendations. We lead them to a particular channel that makes sense for that comment or that person. These touch points. So you came to this talk because you wanted to learn how to scale. We're not there yet. We're at this the growing part, but ultimately these growing touch points allow us to create those bigger ripple effects so that we're not the person to do more of these touch points. So we're creating these bonds so that people will feel connected to other people. All right, this is a lot of text on this slide, so you can skim or just listen, but when you don't have a ton of time, it feels like a huge investment of time to do things at scale, but I really highly recommend it. Spending time building relationships with members, listening to them, cultivating relationships so that they know that you're on their side is powerful. As a member, you'll feel like a brand truly cares about you and develop that sense of loyalty. So if you think of any brand you love, do you expect them to reach out and care about your life and care about the various things that are happening? I think that, our members, when we think about them as people that have lives that connect with the products that we're selling or the community that we're building, it really does make a difference. Through it, we get lots of accolades and people share about it. But the things that I am always struck by are the tough and honest feedback that we get from our most valued members. If they didn't care, they just move on or leave bad reviews somewhere and not give that feedback with love in a way that we can respond and in a way that we can really improve so that they can, see a different result. And some tactical things you can do here. So some of those touch points, right? You can DM members and have casual conversations that build off of what they've shared. So if they've shared something in a public channel, you want to connect with them and talk about those things. In our channel, we're talking about fertility, talking about lots of intimate things. So the topics might be different, but that doesn't really matter. You can still care about somebody as a human being. You can have one-on-one calls. As a personal favorite thing that I like to do, I have created a Calendly link and I put it in my personal profile for Slack, and people can click on it, make appointments with me, and I get to know lots of members throughout the month. I also have taken up to scheduling meetups for members so that we can have that common goal touch point, which is super fun. The gamble here is that spending time on relationships is a bet on the long-term health of your community. It takes time, right? But it allows you to build the relationships that ultimately scale beyond just you, which is what exactly we are talking about. So let's talk. Point number 3 is systems of recognition. This is not about gamifying or leaderboarding your community. I have lots of thoughts about this and whether or not it's a good thing to do it or not a good thing to do about it. I'm super competitive, so I like leaderboards, but maybe not. So a side combo me about this if you're interested, but this is really about creating those meaningful connections and recognition that makes people feel seen, they feel appreciated, their contributions are really acknowledged. So how do we create these systems? Okay, these rewards don't always have to be monetary. That's my first. We are limited budgets, COVID, and I've heard this so many times for community members, especially through these two. You can comment and thank them in a public thread, really acknowledge them and DM them and let them know you see them. You can create programs that give them titles within the community. I know lots of people do this with mod groups. You can mention them in a newsletter, public call outs. You can give them more responsibility. Hopefully you guys can y'all still hear me? I'm getting a connection failure on my end. Yikes. If you can just pop into the comment if you can still hear me, that would be great. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. It's the internet is being kind of funky. Where was I? Yeah, and then you can give people more responsibility. The key here is to position this as a co-creating space. They have expertise, they know your community, and so you can really share that spotlight with them. Some tactical things that we are doing, and as I was writing this talk, how can we do more of this? And in our November newsletter, we're going to be spotlighting all of our channel leaders, which I'll talk about in a little bit as a program that we do. And we're going to be spotlighting them and why they're channel leaders and how they've gotten involved. Okay, so point number 4 is programs that connect. So thinking back on that first thing you wrote, the thing that your members are challenged by, they have questions about or hope for, what helps them navigate through that? So what are the things that help to support them answer that question? Let's talk about programs that create these types of. So I would love for you to set a goal of 5 programs that you haven't yet tried whether it's in the chat that you see inspiration or some of the examples that I'll give, but trying setting a goal of 5 programs that you haven't yet tried that can deepen relationships and solve the biggest issues for your members. So hot tip here is that when I think programs, sometimes I think events. You do not have to do a CMX summit for you to have a successful program. So I'm going to give you a few examples of what I think could be really helpful here. So a mod program, I think somebody just mentioned this, and CX huddle time is something you can do. So if you have a product that requires a lot of CX support, you can have them email and do tickets, right? But you can also have CX come into your community and answer a lot of the questions at a particular designated time. AMAs, in our community, we have a weekly off. So a lot of people don't necessarily want to go to a doctor or call their doctor to get answers. So they'll just want to ask a quick question. And a lot of these are typically very quick questions that aren't super involved. And so they'll drop a question, a fertility nurse or doctor answers it for them, and they are good to go. We also do learning sessions or webinars. Our team does an amazing job with webinars that are super well attended. They're really, really engaging and get lots of questions. And then our webinars folks will send them on to the community and continue on the conversation, which is a really nice touch point for them. So you can continue on the conversation from the webinar with the content that you just learned. Tag and support. This is a program that I don't have a really good name for, but this is what we do. So as I alluded, it's sort of like that initial white glove touch point. So we will do, if a member comes into the community and intros themselves, our mod team or somebody from the community can introduce them to a particular topic, a channel, a moderation team member, or a channel leader, so that that person feels like they are handed off and know exactly what to do next. So let me give you an example of that. So if somebody says they're 36 and they're trying to conceive and they're feeling really frustrated, we might tag the channel leader of the 35 plus TTC channel, trying to conceive channel, and our mental health clinician to let them know that there are channels and resources that we have that might be the perfect fit for them. You could also do matchmaking. This is a simple one I talked about really briefly earlier, but this can be really great for accountability or networking, especially in a group where career might be something, or you're trying to get through a particular type of like fitness program or anything like that, helping them to meet somebody who is in a similar place as them and create deeper connections sort of like offline. Customer spotlights. This is a really interesting one. Our content team does an amazing job sharing fertility stories and spotlighting these interesting stories about people with ovaries. You can do this for career communities. You can do this for people who are accomplishing things in gaming groups, lots of different types of use cases for customer spotlights. So the goal here is to write down 5 potential things you can do next. So moving along. Co-creating a future here. Oops. Y'all, okay, these slides. Okay. Co-creating a future community is the way to engage the most engaged VIPs in your community into helping to shape the direction of the community. And that's what we want to go for, right? Some community leaders feel really nervous about giving away the power to the mere mortal members. But really thinking about your members as your biggest allies, you can create a boundary how these engaged members can be more meaningfully able to contribute. It's really powerful, and it's the ultimate unlock to your community scaling. These people are already coming into your community on the regular. They are already experts at how the community works. They know the lay of the land. They have experiences to share, and they're super interested because they keep coming back, right? They're interested in seeing this place thrive just alongside. What could it look like potentially for you to have a more co-created future? So for us, this looks like a couple different things. We have a community advisory board. This is a group of individuals who get the first look at what we're working on behind the scenes. They are NDA, so they have a non-disclosure with us. They're not going to share anything beyond our walls. They also serve a 6-month cycle, and say that really fast, and get access to our executive team when we have quarterly. And they're the group that I do first when we need quick user research or to gut check ideas we have, and they are super invaluable to the way that we think about, you know, the products and the things that we're creating next. Let's see, volunteer mod squad. I've talked a little bit about this already, but channel leaders are incredibly invested. They are showing up and super passionate about the topic and want to be given more power. And so they are helpful for facilitating more conversations, getting more engagement happening, and they're eager to make that space their own. So, you know, we have a single choice community, and they have led meetups already without us. Our PTC 35 and over channel is one of our hottest channels inside the community and get the most engagement because people are invested in each other's successes. It's really a beautiful thing to see. You could have brand advocates also. I've heard lots of people talk about that. I'm not talking about how many followers somebody has on Instagram. This is really about talking. It's really about how often somebody is interested in sharing about you, or sharing, you know, the awesomeness about your brand or product or community with new members, and inviting new members along with them. So I want you to think about formalizing these relationships with people who want to see your community thrive. And that's really the unlock here. So I would love for us to kind of be introspective and ask ourselves, what do I need as a community leader? What does the business need from this community? And what makes the customer or member feel motivated and recognized in a way that they will want to co-create with us? And some of these conversations at the very beginning are as easy as, hey, can we jump on a quick call? If you notice somebody who's been very engaged, you can jump on with them, jump on a quick call and say, hey, I'd love to see how we can, you know, collaborate more and brainstorm ideas with them. You might not even know what the program is until you hear them say it. So let's talk a little bit about getting buy-in, because, you know, there's a lot of programs we can run. There's a lot of things that we are responsible for doing, and sometimes it's really hard to get buy-in. For us at Modern Fertility, I feel super grateful because Modern Fertility has always had this theory that community is part of the ethos of how we do things. But there have been many other communities that require us to create more of a decision-making process, and getting leadership buy-in can be a little bit of a challenge. So what are the metrics? What are some of the things that you could be looking to get more buy-in? So formalizing the customer listening process is really incredibly powerful. So, you know, if you had a community advisory board, if you had, you know, these mod groups, channel leaders, whatever it is that you would work for you, and formalizing that process and having an email to go to at any point could be really powerful for your development team. Higher NPS, making sure that your community customers are happy with the control, really powerful stuff. We're just improving the NPS overall. Longer relationships with your customers and higher LTV, lifetime value of the customer, right? Referrals, right? So community members bring people along, referring new. And a fun one also to think about is, if your community is open to purchase customers, how many of those are turning into customers? Fun metric. These that we can get buy-in for and have leadership see the value of the community and the programs that you're going to be running. Oh my goodness. Slide, I promise. Okay. So scaling means that you have to put in the legwork at the beginning, but it doesn't mean that you do it all in one go. That's not possible. And I recommend a schedule. The biggest thing here is, how can we create a community with our community members versus creating a community for our community members? So it might just be one touch point, then another touch point, and then you start hearing what your community needs. And then you decide on doing those things, and they'll create bigger ripple effects. So I would love to hear from you in the chat. What's one thing you're taking away from our conversation, or one action item you're going to be actually moving forward with? Just drop those in the chat. I would love to see them. Thank you so much. You can find more about our modern fertility stuff at modernfertility.com/Reina. And if you want to check out our community, it's modernfertility.com/community. And you can find me at Reina Pomeroy at Twitter. All right, I'm gonna hand it over to Megan. I stop sharing my screen. Okay, I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say in the chat.
Hi, Reina. Okay, so we've got questions in the chat. Can you see them, or would you like me to read them to you?
There's a bunch of things.
Q&A, in the Q&A section.
I don't see it. Oh, I do see the Q&A. What is CX for us? We have a department of folks who do customer experience. So I am not part of that department, but they do a ton of, all of the tickets that come in. They triage and handle all of those things. And they also come into our community to answer some of the questions as well, like I mentioned. Well, it says, if you DM them and they didn't reply, how do you write a message that people will answer pain points? Ooh, this is so good. Sometimes they don't respond. Let's be really honest. And, those people aren't going to be your super most engaged people. You in a public channel, they you a little bit more about X, Y, and Z, or whatever feels relevant to you. That might be an opportunity to have them check. Sometimes we assume that they don't want to respond, but it might just be that they forgot to check our platform, right? Like somebody forgot to open up Slack again, and they didn't get an email notification or something like that. Boop, 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 boop. Guys, I can't see the rest of these questions anymore. They disappeared. Okay, how is the advisory board appointed? Do they apply themselves, or so for our first cycle, which is what we're just finishing now, they were a mix of people who I thought were super engaged in the community and were coming back. They were like our top 20 people. I had conversations with all of them and then had them apply to make sure that they were interested in the commitment that we were looking for. Jamie, happy to take if you have questions about that. How do you scale the responsibility when it's an unpaid or volunteer position? It's a really great question. So I always am mindful of the boundaries that people have, right? Every single person in our community is interested in their fertility journey first. And if by chance what our request is meets them where they are and meets their level of excitement and like jazzedness for supporting our other members, and they really like that they can have a role in our community, that's kind of like where we call it good. In the doc that I outline our channel leaders' responsibilities, I have a little bit at the bottom that's basically like the prenup, right? It's like, if you need to leave, here's how you do it, so that it makes it very clear to them. It's not gonna break any terms or anything like that. This is what I need you to do if you're going to be leaving. I recognize that their lives are far more important to them than supporting the community. I just need to have a nice handoff so that we know how to support them leaving. And the responsibility piece too is we want to make sure that they have everything they need. Their responsibility is not necessarily to answer all the scientific questions, but for us to be able to give them the tools to be able to moderate the group really well. I hope that answers your question, Tyler. Let me know. Totally logistical question. How can I get these slides? Happy to send them. I don't know, Megan, what's the process for this? I'm happy to send them along. If you want to just tweet me, is that how it works? Reina Pomeroy, and I'd be happy to give them to you. What do you do if active people are not so empathetic? How do you scale intimacy? Oh, this is such a good question. I think that you have to have really strong guidelines in the community, and there are going to be there is opportunity for bad actors showing their behavior as the modeled behavior. If you as a moderator can shut those things down in a really empathetic way and acknowledge their presence and acknowledge what they're looking for, great. And if you need to kick them out, because they're not following the rules, then that's a conversation you need to have, right? And I think that in our community, we've been super lucky because we do not have a ton of bad actors. There's not a ton of stuff that we have to delete or moderate or ask people to leave. Fortunately, I know past communities, it has been the case where we have to create these really stringent, what feels like stringent sort of requests and like things that people need to do. So bless you. That's a really great question. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Everything's gone away. Can't see anything.
All right. Well, if you have any more questions, you know how to contact Reina. So otherwise, thank you so much, Reina, and thank you to everyone for coming. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah, thank you.
Take care. Bye.